It's interesting, isn't it, where you start to talk about these brands that are relatively recent startups, or maybe over a decade in the example of Represent, but they're now starting to get more physical footprint, from that initial perhaps more online focused launch. And I think that that's, for me, the primary challenge, especially when you talk about it from a technology perspective, is how the more traditional and more established brands actually pivot the other way. And that brings with itself a whole heap of challenges, right? So how are brands adapting then? How are the more established brands adapting to these behavioral shifts?
I mean, I think that now is the first time to mention the elephant in the room or the Jaguar in the room.
The death of an iconic British brand, apparently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It depends which part of which comment on LinkedIn you read, which Daily Mail article you read, whatever. But whatever Jaguar have done, they have managed to get themselves the most talked about brand in the last couple of weeks that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to offend the purists, the automotive purists out there. But I think the reality is some of we've touched on it earlier with the Gen Z, the next generation, the majority of the next generation of purchases of their vehicles have probably have not grown up with a combustion engine, so it's a big step, but ultimately, I think it just touches on some of those themes from earlier where, shifts in behaviors and expectations are changing. I mean, automotive is having to navigate multiple transformations at the same time, electrification, autonomous driving, and actually, in the next 5 to 10 years, what is the actual role of a vehicle in our day-to-day life if you don't actually need to drive it? And, you know, a lot of automotive brands, especially in the luxury space, are going to have to find new and interesting ways to engage that younger audience. I mean, personally, I think it's brave. Jaguar have come out the traps quick. They're potentially the first of many other brands that are going to reassess their brand direction over the next few years. I think from my work at Bentley a few years ago, there's another rebrand coming there, and I think it also looks stunning. There's the obviously the emittance of a Jaguar is huge for people to get their head round, and in the specific campaign that we see, the lack of a vehicle. But if you dig a little deeper, there is events coming up in the next week and a half. We hope to see the new design aesthetic and the direction that Jaguar are heading with their vehicles. So I think it's a little bit too early to.
I think the intelligence of this is actually they don't need the vehicle because this new generation it's about aligning values versus specific product. They're aligning to what Jaguar are saying in the statement they're making versus going, I'm going to buy that car because that car's probably not ready for whatever year's time anyway.
And actually, that's exactly the point of what we've been saying, right? In terms of, and actually, this could turn out to be an excellent, forwarding example of what we're talking about in terms of a luxury brand adapting to Gen Z, to changing behaviors, to changing ways of engagement. And yeah, so watch the space, I guess.